The refugee vessel. Wandering Hope trembled as another engine sputtered out. Commander Jan steadied himself on the rail, watching scarlet alarms flare across the bridge. His people had been fleeing for 3 years, drifting from one barren system to the next, shadows hiding in endless night. "Sir, that was our final spare drive," reported Lieutenant Minho at his console. The young officer's face showed exhaustion. They all carried the same weariness now. At most, we can last 2 more. Months. Jan inclined his head slowly. Around him, the bridge staff worked with muted resolve. No one complained anymore. Why would they? Every race in the galaxy had turned them away. The Cathori were branded poison, banished and unwelcome wherever they traveled. Through the viewport, Jan surveyed the rest of their dwindling convoy, 4 to 7 ships bearing the last 50,000 survivors. Once the Cathori had numbered in billions, the galaxy's finest terraformers, transforming barren wastelands into paradise. Civilizations had begged for their artistry. That was before the madness began. Jan shut his eyes, forcing memories down. 2 centuries past, Cathori scientists had strayed into reckless ambition. They believed they could improve other races by altering their very genes without consent. They tested on countless unwilling captives. The aftermath was monstrous. Most perished. Those who endured became broken things, stripped of who they once had been. The galaxy had been right to stop them, but then it judged all Cathori guilty, every last one, even the unborn. "Commander," Navigator Summon called out. "Oh, transmission from the Altrian fleet." "Put it through," Jan ordered grimly. Admiral Vex's image formed on the deck. The tall, azure-skinned Altrian sneered. "Cathori vessel, 20 minutes to leave. No further warnings will be given." "Admiral, I beg you," Jan replied. "We have children aboard, the sick. We only seek supplies and—" "You should have thought of children before your kind sought to poison us all." Vex silenced him coldly. 20 minutes, Jan thieves. After that, we fire." The hologram flickered away. Jan's shoulders slumped under the weight of the words. Gene thieves. That was their title now. No longer terraformers, not survivors, only criminals who stole genomes. "Set course for the next system," he murmured. "Sir," Minho said hesitantly, "that's Terra. The humans live there." Jan had heard whispers of humans, a young race, newly mastering faster than light. The Galactic Council scarcely recognized them. Most dismissed humanity as primitive, irrelevant. "They are our last option," Jan replied. "Perhaps ignorance will spare us their fear." As the fleet angled toward the yellow star, Jan walked the narrow corridors of his ship. He passed families crammed into dim cabins, rationing their meager food with quiet dignity. Children played with fractured toys while parents whispered anxious, fears they hoped the little ones wouldn't notice. In the med bay, Dr. Kyung bent over an aged patient, her breathing shallow. The elder Cathori woman suffered an illness, easily cured with medicines they lacked, medicines denied by every port of call. "How long does she have?" Jan asked softly. "Perhaps a week," Kyung answered grimly, not lifting his eyes. "The 3rd this month. If we don't find aid soon—" He didn't need to say more. Both knew. Hatred had chased the Cathori for 3 years, but hatred alone would not kill them. Starvation, rust, and disease would. Jan moved on, past workshops cluttered with engineers cannibalizing broken systems to patch other failing machines. Past schoolrooms where weary teachers spoke of once green worlds their ancestors had nurtured into gardens. Past the memorial wall etched with names of those lost during the long wandering. So many names, so much stolen away. When he returned to the bridge, the crew watched the constellations drift as their ships pressed onward to human space. Few spoke aloud anymore. Words were scarce. They had learned not to trust in hope. Hope only shattered, leaving. Sharper pain. 3 days until the human system, Navigator Summon reported steadily. 3 days. Just 3 left to discover if compassion still lingered in the stars, or if the Cathori would at last perish, abandoned to the void, as the galaxy wished. Jan studied his reflection in the viewport. Skin faintly blue, eyes wide and luminous, adapted. For darkness, traits that marked him alien, unsettling to most other races. To them, he was a gene thief, a monster who might steal their children's bloodlines, twist them into horrors. Yet inside, he felt only exhaustion. Exhaustion of flight. Exhaustion of watching his people diminish. Exhaustion of shouldering sins never his. Soon they would learn if humans were different, or merely another echo of the same cruelty that haunted every cold corner of the galaxy. Captain. Hannah sat in the pilot's chair aboard the small Envoy craft Peace. Her hands quivered faintly as she checked the comm relays for the 10th time. Beyond, the enormous Cathori flotilla hung silent on the system's outer edge. "Are you ready, Captain?" her co-pilot asked. Lieutenant J1 was young for diplomacy, barely 30, yet one of the rare few who still believed salvation might exist. "As ready as I'll ever be," Hannah replied. She had flown this path 4 to 7 times. 4 to 7 councils had spurned them. Most had offered rejection with courtesy. Some had threatened to fire on them. Everyone had refused. The peace seeker drifted cautiously toward the high, human orbital stations encircling their blue-green homeworld. Hannah studied the crude silhouettes of human starships. They had only ventured into space for a handful of decades. Their craft were simple beside the marvels of older galactic civilizations. Perhaps simplicity was mercy. Perhaps ignorance meant no fear. "Human vessels, this is Captain Hanahoff, the Cathori envoy ship," she called, broadcasting across all frequencies. "We seek audience with your leaders." The silence stretched like eternity. J1 tapped his console nervously, waiting. Beyond the viewport, human squadrons moved, tiny fighters bristling with weapons that seemed like toys beside real fleets. At last, a voice broke through the static, galactic standard spoken with strange cadence. "Cathori vessel, this is Admiral Dongwan of the Earth Defense Force. We were expecting you." Hannah blinked in disbelief. "Expecting us?" "News traveled swiftly, even here. We know of your people's plight. Dock at our station. We'll provide rest and supplies while hearing your story." J1's eyes widened at his captain. Food. Rest. No race had given such mercy in 3 long years. Of exile. Most denied even repairs for survival. "Admiral," Hannah answered carefully, "you understand the Galactic Council has branded us dangerous. Any who aid us invite punishment." A pause followed. Then Admiral Dongwan laughed, not cruelly, but with genuine warmth. "Captain, my kind once fought 2 world wars, nearly burned our planet to ashes before learning cooperation. We do not fear the Council's judgment." An hour later, Hannah sat comfortably within the human command station. The walls bore images of Earth itself, azure seas, emerald forests, white peaks. She had not glimpsed such beauty in years. Admiral Dongwan, gray-haired and steady-eyed, listened. Without interruption, as she told of failed experiments 2 centuries past, of punishment and exile across generations. "So you see," Hannah finished softly, "we carry guilt not our own. The galaxy condemns us for crimes of a few long dead." Dongwan remained silent for a moment, then rose, gazing at the stars beyond. "Captain, let me share something of humans. We have a saying, the sins of the father are not borne by the child. A child is innocent of its parents' deeds." "The Council does not believe so," Hannah whispered. "The Council can take their decrees and throw them into a black hole," Dongwan said flatly. Hannah inhaled sharply at such defiance against the galaxy's highest authority. "We've been watching. What becomes of those species who refuse to fit the Council's tidy molds? The cybernetic next, condemned for seeking improvement through machines. The hive-born resonance feared simply for daring to think as one instead of apart. And your kind, punished eternally for the crimes of madmen long dead, long before most refugees were ever born." He turned back toward her, voice steady. "Humanity believes in second chances, Captain. We judge people by their own choices, not by the shadows of their ancestors." That night, Hannah sat stunned as humans summoned an emergency assembly. She had braced for hours of speeches, political stalling, and caution. Instead, the decision was swift, less than 20 minutes. President Kyung, young and resolute, a woman, who reminded Hannah of her child, stood before the chamber. The question is simple. Do we aid those in need, or turn away because fear is demanded? "I vote to welcome the Cathori refugees." The final tally was decisive. Of 300 representatives, only 12 opposed sanctuary. As Hannah relayed the outcome to Commander Jwin and the fleet, tears streaked her cheeks. For the first time in 3 long years, they were wanted. For the first time since exile began, the Cathori were seen as people, not as criminals. "Welcome to Sol," Admiral Dongwan said as the refugee ships entered human space. "Welcome home." Already automated relays spread word to the Galactic Council of Earth's choice. The answers would be harsh. Sanctions, threats, pressure to recant. But when Dongwan saw Cathori children step onto human stations, their faces alight with awe and fragile hope, he knew humanity had chosen rightly. Sometimes the right path meant defiance. Sometimes the outcasts chose each other. Dr. Summon stood at Mars Station's deck, watching the red world shift in color. Where barren dust had reigned, now islands of green spread like miracles. Terraforming advanced faster than dreamt. "The processors are running flawlessly," Engineer J1 said, joining her with a grin, data slate glowing with promising figures. "At this pace, Mars will breathe in 5 years, not 50. Summon nodded slowly, though thoughtful. "Your people learn at astonishing speed, J1. Most species need centuries to master terraforming. Humans grasp it in months. Beneath them, through clear dome walls, Cathori and human workers toiled together. Children of both species played in gardens, their laughter ringing like music, a vision impossible anywhere else." "Dr. Summon," J1 asked softly, "may I ask you something?" "Of course. Why are you truly helping us? Your people could have demanded much. You hold the knowledge we desperately need. You could have asked anything in exchange for what we know. Yet instead you give freely." Summon paused, recalling that first day when the refugee fleet arrived. The humans hadn't asked what the Cathora could trade for sanctuary. They had only opened their doors and said, "How can we help?" "Because you see us as people," she said. "Not weapons, not gene thieves, just people in need of a home." Their words were broken by the arrival of Commander Hun Wu of Earth's Defense. His expression was grave as he carried a secure communications tablet. "Forgive the intrusion," he said softly, "but we face a problem." The projection displayed shipping routes. Red markers, human freighters denied entry. Yellow, unanswered diplomatic requests. Orange, new defenses rising at borders. "Council sanctions are tightening," Hun Wu explained grimly. "No allies will trade, medical stockpiles, rare ores, computers. We're being cut off from all essentials." J1 stared at the shifting map. How long until collapse? 6 months before outer colonies falter, a year before Earth feels the strain. Summon felt the old weight return. That curse all Cathori carried. Their very presence drew hardship upon those who showed them kindness. "This is our fault," she whispered. "We've brought ruin to your people." Perhaps we should leave before— No. J1's voice snapped with force. Don't even suggest it. We chose this alliance with clear eyes. We knew the cost. But your people will pay that cost. Our people are already thriving, Hun Wu countered, gesturing outside to the green streaks blooming on Mars. Look at what we've built together in just 6 months. Our colonies expand faster, our crops grow richer, our sciences leap forward by decades. It was undeniable. Human drive and Cathori wisdom together had created wonders impossible apart, but every miracle carried a heavier price. Commander, Summon said gravely, there is something else. Our networks report strange mobilizations. The Council doesn't mean only isolation. They are weighing direct intervention. Hun Wu's jaw tightened. What kind of intervention? The kind waged with battleships, Summon answered bleakly. Later that evening, the three gathered in J1's small Mars apartment, sharing rice and Cathori vegetables. Through the windows, 2 moons glowed over salmon skies, while human Cathori towns lit the surface. My daughter asked me something, J1 said, breaking the silence. She wanted to know why aliens hate her Cathori friends. I had no answer. What did you tell her? Summon asked. I told her sometimes people fear what they don't understand. But fear does not make those things different, just new. Dr. Sin gave a sorrowful smile. Your daughter sees what others refuse, he said gently. She's growing up where differences are valued, not feared. Hun Wu nodded. That is a future worth defending. As though his words called it forth, alarms blared through the station. Red strobes lit the walls as the comms roared alive. All hands, this is Admiral Dongwan. Long-range scans confirm a vast fleet inbound from the rim of our system. Council ships, many of them. All citizens prepare for potential conflict. The three friends exchanged steady looks over their meal. This moment was inevitable. The galaxy had judged humanity's vision too dangerous. Beyond the glass, Martian skies welcomed the first stars. Soon, those lights would burn with enemy ships bearing weapons, threats, and demands for the surrender of Kathmari lives. Yet inside the station, human and Kathmari families ate it together in peace. Children laughed in the halls, and scientists shared work on dreams meant to uplift all of civilization. Some truths demanded defiance, no matter the odds. Lieutenant Sun Wu floated in his fighter cockpit, eyes fixed as the Council fleet bled from hyperspace like angry steel hornets. 312 warships, led by the massive dreadnought Purity's Edge, twice the scale of anything humanity had crafted. Sun Wu, you seeing this? His wingman radioed. How do we fight that? Sun touched the crystal node fixed to his helmet. A Kathmari bio-interface, illegal anywhere else. Here, born of joint sacrifice, it became possible. We don't meet them head-on, Sun said as his mind widened through the link. He felt gravity wells, magnetic tides, even the whisper of dust flows invisible to sensors. We fight clever. On the defense station's bridge, Admiral Dongwan faced the hollow form of Admiral Khan, Council enforcer. The alien towered like a gray tree with endless arms, his voice sharp with practiced dominance. Humans of Earth, Admiral Kiran declared, you break galactic law by sheltering genetic criminals. Surrender the Kathmari and be spared severe punishment. Dongwan turned, seeing his mixed crew at their posts. Behind him stood Captain Hannah, now his most trusted counsel. Admiral Kiran, Dongwan answered coolly. We know the law. Nostitute forbids refuge for those hunted. Earth protects the innocent. The Kathmari are not innocent, Kiran thundered. They are gene thieves, corruption made flesh. Hatred is the only poison I see, Dongwan replied. If you want them, you go through us. The council ships shifted into assault formations, each vessel bristling with weapons strong enough to shatter worlds. Humanity's fleet looked fragile, toys before a storm. But hidden within the asteroid belt, another power stirred. Captain Yuna guided her hybrid marines through the void, dancing among rock shadows. Half were human volunteers enhanced by Kathmari science. The rest young Kathmari trained in human warcraft. Remember, she whispered across the link, they expect ordinary tactics. They aren't ready for what we've become. Here augmented sight pierced stone to track heat. Her reflexes bent momentum itself, and more than that, the hybrid team thought and moved as a single organism, exchanging data through bio-neural links the Council had outlawed as heresy. The first wave of Council fighters plunged into the asteroid belt, expecting helpless prey. Instead, they entered a shifting labyrinth where the rocks themselves seemed alive. Sun Wu's fighter darted between tumbling giants that twisted in impossible rhythms. With his Kathmari interface, he felt gravity the way a musician feels tempo. He led his squadron in a lethal dance, striking from nowhere and vanishing before the enemy could track. "What is this sorcery?" a Council pilot screamed over comms. "The asteroids are moving." They were indeed. Captain Yuna's Marines had seeded the belt with gravity manipulators, terraforming tools repurposed as weapons. Now, house-sized rocks spun into Council ships with perfect precision. "Admiral?" Kieran stared in mounting disbelief as his superior fleet was torn apart by impossible maneuvers. Human fighters moved as though glimpsing the future. Human Marines materialized within ships, crawling through vents no Council soldier could fit. Each time his forces adapted, the humans shifted to an entirely new stratagem. "Sir," his tactical officer cried, "we're losing ships faster than we can destroy theirs. They're breaking physics." Far above Earth, Commander Jan piloted a converted KEI refugee craft, now serving as a hospital ship. Human and Kathmari medics worked side by side, combining regenerative techniques with surgery to perform miracles. "Commander," Dr. Kuang called, "incoming wounded from the belt. It's Lieutenant Sun Wu. His fighter was hit." Jan's chest tightened. Sun Wu had become like a son during these desperate months. The young pilot had volunteered for one of the deadliest augmentation programs, offering his life for strangers. They carried him from the wreck, burned, broken, but eyes blazing with resolve. "Did we stop them?" he rasped. Through the medbay's windows, the shattered Council fleet was visible, half destroyed, the rest fleeing in panic. "Yes," Jan whispered, clutching his hand. "We stopped them." For the first time in history, a Council enforcement fleet had been defeated by primitives. Word would race across the stars. Earth had defied the impossible and triumphed. 6 months later, President Kuang stood at the viewing window of New Geneva Station, watching vessels from 17 species arrive. The galaxy was changing. "Madame President," Minister Sumin, Earth's first alien cabinet member, reported, "the next delegation requests immediate asylum." Through the glass, massive Nex ships loomed like mechanical cities, bristling with lights and appendages. The Council had long hunted them as machine-tainted for embracing cybernetics. "How many?" Kyong asked. 2 million, Sumin answered. "Their world fell last week. They are the last of their people. Feeding and sheltering them should have been impossible, but impossibility had become humanity's specialty." On Europa Station, Engineer J1 worked with beings the Council once called nightmares. A Nex with 6 metal arms refined starship drives, while a crystalline resonant mind calculated beyond mortal comprehension. "The conversion rate's still too low," J1 muttered, eyeing the hologram. The resonant pulsed with light, channeling its hive's intellect. "Our collective suggests altering plasma flow through the 7th matrix. This refinement, efficiency increased by 37%. J1 grinned. 6 months working beside. Species the galaxy had branded unnatural had taught him more than his entire formal education. "Let's try it," he said. On Mars, Lieutenant Sun Wu walked through the rehabilitation gardens, flexing his new prosthetic arm, a masterpiece of Nexi cybernetics fused with Kathmari bioengineering. It was stronger, faster, and more sensitive than the limb he had lost. Beside him padded Yuki, a young Keth Mori girl born during the long flight of exile. She had never set foot on a living world until now, and every flower, every tree left her wide-eyed with wonder. "Uncle Sun Wu?" she asked, using the title. Her people gave trusted adults. "Why do the council hate us so much?" He considered. "They're afraid, Yuki. Afraid there's only one right way to exist. When they see people like your family, or the Nex, or the Resonance, they see difference. And difference frightens them. But difference is good," she insisted. "My friend Haruto is human, and he thinks different from me. That's why we solve problems better together." Sunwoo smiled, ruffling her hair. "Exactly. You understand what the galaxy spent thousands of years forgetting. And it wasn't only happening on human soil. Across the stars, species long pressed beneath the Council's boot were finding their courage. On Kepler 442, workers rose against their appointed rulers. In Vega, 3 species declared independence and forged their own alliance. Reports of rebellion streamed daily to Admiral Duan's desk. Uprisings, shattered trade routes, species refusing to obey. The rigid order of centuries was cracking like ice in spring. "Sir," said Commander Hun Wu at Tactical, "another request for aid. The Tau Ceti rebels want weapons." Duan shook his head. "We're not here to start wars. Send them something better than weapons, sir. Send them teachers, engineers, doctors, people who can help them build, not just tear down." On New Harmony Station, the galaxy's first Diversity Institute was rewriting history. Species from 43 worlds studied together, sharing medicine, mathematics, and art freely. "The results are astonishing," Dr. Sin told President Kyung. "When species collaborate voluntarily, innovation explodes. The Council's segregation wasn't only cruel, it was wasteful. But the most profound change was in the children. Human kids laughed with Keth Mori in Martian gardens. Nexuri youths raced humans in zero-gravity arenas. Resonant hatchlings opened their hive minds to fascinated friends from a dozen species. For them, cooperation was natural, supremacy absurd. On the bridge of the new beginning, Admiral Jan watched a convoy of refugees dock. These were Zephrites, a gentle people who spoke through shifting colors of skin, branded, primitive, and condemned to council re-education. Jan raised the translator. "Welcome to Earth space," he said softly. "Welcome home." Behind him, his crew, human, Keth Mori, Nexuri, Resonant, worked in seamless harmony. They no longer thought of themselves as separate species, bound together by necessity. They were becoming something entirely new. The galaxy was changing. The old order was breaking. And around a small blue world, the future was being born, one refugee ship at a time.